So happy One You Thriving Monday.
Thanks.
One of the cool things about moving is that you get a number of day ones. New city, new neighborhood, new rhythms. And if you're lucky, those day ones come with A1s. The people who are yours from the very beginning. Seinquis is my A1 from day one. She's my neighbor, my sounding board, my on my way to your house / already in your driveway person. My dearest friend, and the longer I've known her, the more I've realized that the way she shows up in friendship is exactly how she shows up in leadership. Seinquis is currently serving as Co-Interim Vice President for Marketing and Communications at North Dakota State University, while also leading as Senior Director for Strategic Enrollment Management. Casual. But what I love most is not just the titles, it's how she carries them. She has led efforts to stabilize enrollment for 3 consecutive years, increased first-year and transfer enrollment, built partnerships across campus and with the foundation, and secured funding to expand scholarship access for students. She doesn't just talk about access and opportunity, she builds systems that make them possible. She's a 2-time president of the Dakota Association for College Admissions Counseling, a national conference presenter, and someone who genuinely believes in professional growth, not just for herself, but for everyone around her. Seinquis is wise and patient, persistent and kind, creative and conscientious. Her Clifton strengths, achiever, maximizer, learner, believer, responsibility, are not just words on a page. They show up in how she mentors, how she advocates, and how she refuses to settle for good enough when excellence is possible. She values having mentors. She is incredibly quick to mentor others. She lights fires people can't put out. And she does it with the steadiness and grace of an absolute rock star. I lost my place because I got all distracted. And I can say this not as someone who admires her professionally, but as someone who knows her personally. She's the real deal. So thanks for being here today. Thanks for being my A1 from day one.
Well, I'm glad I made it through that without sobbing because you're just so kind. And right back at you. I'm just really blessed to have you in my life. And I'm looking forward to this conversation and hope I don't get emotional because obviously you are a mentor to me, Bethany. Truly, just appreciate the kind words. That was a really good summary of almost the last 2 years of my life, which has felt like 10 years in some ways too. So
I would agree. I'm so excited about this conversation. I think it's really fun to get to have these conversations with people who are like my personal friend and people I work really closely with. So I'm very excited for all the questions I'm going to get to hear you answer because, I don't know, I'm intrigued.
Which I knew what those questions were. So
no. And I will tell you, as anybody who's watching this who may have already been on an episode knows, I didn't give anybody all their questions because also I wander. And so what I don't ever want somebody to do is look at questions and think about what they're going to say and then be like, but you didn't ask me my favorite question because we wandered somewhere else. So
understood. Makes sense.
It's the mystery that keeps the joy alive.
Love a little mystery on a Monday.
So first question, when did you first realize you weren't just doing the work, you were leading it?
Ooh, when did I realize I wasn't just doing the work, I was leading it? Probably in 2020 is one of the first times I think of when I said yes to a director of admission role at North Dakota State. When I looked at that role and when I've observed that role in the past, I was like, wow, that's a big role. You have to be really smart and really, really with it to lead undergraduate admission at an institution of our size. And when the opportunity presented itself, I was like, there's no way I'm ready for that. There's absolutely no way. But I knew I loved this place and I wasn't ready to go. And I knew and still know that I love challenge. It, despite how much I complain about it to you, Bethany, of how challenged I am, it really is an inspiration to have opportunities where you can find, I don't want to say solutions, but opportunities to address challenges. And so when I said yes to that opportunity and started to get into the thick of it, I was like, okay, people trust in me to know the context, the landscape, the data, the decisions that we have to make to move enrollment forward. And in that moment, when I took on that role in COVID too, it was, okay, that's a lot. People are really trusting in me to provide some guidance here and to be the voice to help others understand their role in what we call recruitment and attracting students here. And again, I wouldn't say I was ready for that by any means, but it was that moment where I was like, okay, The pressure's here, I'm feeling it, but I'm ready to rise to the occasion.
And like, what prepares you to say yes to that? Because like, I think there is like there are personality realities about like even enjoying a challenge or even like you mentioned your love for this place.
Mm-hmm.
So I think either like what convinced you to say yes, or who did you look to for input on that decision?
Great question. You know, the first thing I'll say is it's easy to say yes when you believe in the mission and the purpose and you know it. And even when I'm floundering or second guessing or wondering if this is something I should do or shouldn't do, when the mission is clear and when you feel like you can get behind that mission and it aligns with who you are from a values-based perspective, I mean, it's an easy yes in that regard. Is
Yeah.
the work easy? No. But it's like, why not?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I? Especially
Yep.
when all the stars seem to be aligning. And so to know the mission of North Dakota State, that we are a land grant, we talk a lot about and do a lot about giving back to our communities and to our citizens so that they can live the best and most meaningful lives that they can live. I want to be part of that, and I believe in it. And on the professional experience I've had, even leading up to leading a team at NDSU, I've seen it. I've benefited from the mission of North Dakota State University.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, in that regard, it's an easy yes. But I also say too, this is a gap about mentorship. When people are in your corner rooting you on, even when you doubt yourself, when people see the value that you have, like that obviously is a breath of fresh air and just the pat on your back that you need to go in, I guess, I mean, all in. So, yeah.
All in. And like, I think that is like, you know, in the things that Bethany cares about and the things that we're talking about, mission is a huge part of the conversation. And I think what you've hit the nail on the head on, like tangibly, is like, if you know what the mission is, if you have been impacted by, but if someone doesn't know what the mission of your organization is, you're missing that pull at people too. Like when you think about advancement or recruitment or persistence or even someone looking for a job, can I find what your mission is? Does that resonate with me? Is a whole part of mission that I don't feel like I've thought about tangibly. And like, is that a part of a reason someone says yes to something? Like that's significant and important. And I appreciate that.
Well, to your point, Bethany, I think a lot of people, including myself, you think about how does this decision benefit me? Like the personal gain, the personal wins that you get from making decisions. And so oftentimes I do think mission kind of gets lost because you're thinking of it from a personal lens, not necessarily from a broader community lens.
Yeah.
There's actually this quote, many years ago, I attended a conference. I think it was related to the ACT conference. And one of the speakers, and I'm forgetting her name, but she had this quote on her slides that said, when you walk with purpose, you collide with destiny. And that's one of my favorite quotes of all time. And I'm feeling horrible that I can't credit the person who actually said it right now. But that's your purpose, your vision, what you want. And when you collide with destiny, when the stars align with a larger mission that's outside of you. So anyway, it's something that I've learned to take to heart, and any decision I make now, it's like, okay, well, yes, how does this benefit me? But also, what am I contributing back to something bigger than myself?
Well, and I feel like genuinely for those of us who find ourselves in roles that are always bigger than we can really ever master, right? Like mission is something that keeps you going. What is the thing bigger than me when the day is hard? What is the thing bigger than me when, if we're at the end of the day, we're well past, we're past the workday, we're home, past the end of the at-home evening workday, and the to-do list is still a page long. Like, how do you show up optimistic and encouraging the next day? I think there's a huge gap filled there, and we call that gap mission. Like, because I simply believe that the work matters. Because I think at a certain point, when mission ceases to be significant, it just starts to feel incredibly overwhelming. And like, I think that is where people who aren't tied or connected to a mission experience burnout.
Wholeheartedly agree. Yep. Or people who are so focused on the task, specifically the task, and not how the task gets you one step closer to a bigger goal. I think too, that's where some burnout happens. And just like this perpetual feeling of, I just got to check the list or check the boxes off the list. which I used to operate that way. So I can't say that I'm talking outwardly because that used to be me. And I've just kind of, there's never enough time. Time is so finite. Like there's never enough time. So, yeah.
I want to talk about that because I love to talk about the nonsense of time. It's one of my favorite things to talk about, because I do think that time is a partner, not a thief. Like how we look at time matters, but I think that comes with this understanding that time is passing. We aren't not going to be privileged enough to be trying to solve this problem forever. Is I guess like the world is turning, time is moving. I don't want to be trying to solve this same problem 2 years from now.
Right.
And so how do you lead with that framework of the work the work we're doing is important. The mission matters. The world isn't getting less complicated as time goes by.
Hmm. Hmm. That's a deep question. And I mean, as I heard you talking, the word capacity came to mind.
Mhm.
And that no one is in this work alone. So, you have to lean on other people. You also have to give yourself grace. And that's where prioritization comes into play and aligning what you're doing today with the strategic priorities of your business, your company, your institution. So certainly you want to maximize time, but there's a delicate balance there with maximizing time and also taking care of yourself and being realistic about what you can accomplish within the time that you have available to you. So, yeah, I hate time. I wish
I'm
I
going to
wish
tell
I
you
didn't
said
need
that,
8
first
hours
of
of
all.
sleep. I wish, because I would be so much more productive. I don't know, it's like one of those things you just have to come to terms with. I don't know any other way to say it other than there's only so much you can do alone
Yeah.
and in a day, in a week, in a month, in a year. And that's where strategic priorities and having a plan and a strategy, both short and long term,
Yeah.
matter.
Well, and I
Yeah.
think you said that kind of at the beginning, and I want to double down on that. So I'm glad you looped us back. Like if you're working on if so much of your time is consumed by things that fall outside of the function of your strategic plan, priorities, direction, those things are the things we got to figure out how to automate or stop doing. And I know that is easier said than done.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there is this you know, I grew up in a very churched context. And we used to talk about living coram deo. What does it mean to live before the face of God? Would it change your behavior? And so I think when I think about what that looks like in a corporate reality, what I'm talking about is living coram strategy. If you have to live in light of or facing what your strategic plan and priorities are, you would live your life differently. And so, how do we, as leaders, help people keep our strategy and our priorities centered on their work? Because it's so easy to say yes to every meeting or follow on every thread or say, this is a good thing. That doesn't mean it is the thing. And so I think that would be another, and I think my question here is more future focused. How do we endeavor to build teams that are shaped like that?
Ooh, I don't know if I can. Well, I'm just so many examples I have in my normal job because everything is important, right? And when you're working in
Everything.
enrollment, there's this fear of if you say no or you sunset or you pivot, is it the one thing that was going to move the needle
Yep.
and help you have a successful enrollment year? And so that is not something I will ever claim to be great at, saying no, because I'm a yes girl. But when you talk about how you build teams around that and empower people to be in the long game, I don't know if I have a clear answer for that, but it is so important. And it's a challenge every single day. Because in my world in enrollment management, everything is so interconnected and intertwined.
Yep.
So what someone's idea or priority is around enrollment may not be something that's on my radar or in the strategic plan, but it would certainly be a great thing to move forward with. So the balancing importance versus strategic priorities
Yeah.
is something I grapple with often, and certainly something that I think I'll continue to grapple with for a very long time. I don't know if I have an answer for that.
Well, and I think enrollment is such a unique space where like you're dealing with a large institution that has a lot of priorities and a lot of things it's doing, and it generally moves slowly, as institutions do. And you're trying to recruit singular students in a variety of places in space and time and focus and thought. Like, I think you are in one of the hardest spaces because you're dealing with things that move at completely different paces and trying to build meaningful bridges constantly.
Yep. Well said. And yes, I talk a lot about what is our product, what are we trying to educate future students on, what is the experience here like, what are our academic programs. It's not just one thing. I mean, yes, you can argue the experience and the impact of an NDSU degree is one thing, but that could look different to 11,952 students. So that's certainly a challenge, but I'm all in, I'm here for it. It's fun. And every day is a different day, and that ebb and flow of that too, Bethany, I think too is like just we have to stick true to who we are and traditionally how NDSU came to be, but also evolve with the times and meet the needs of today's students and today's learners, which may not be what it was like even 2, 3, 4, 20, 30 years ago. So
and I think this is where like I want to give the work the weight that it is due. It will be different 2 years from now than it is now.
absolutely.
And I think that's the other, like for me, admissions and enrollment falls into a completely different category in even like thought because you're not dealing with a static group of consumers. And not that anybody is, but you're really not.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Great,
Next
great,
question.
great talk. Nice talking
So that's
to you.
hard. You do hard things. Thanks for doing hard things. I appreciate that. What has leadership taught you about yourself that success alone couldn't have?
Yeah. I think leadership has taught me that. I mean, I knew this kind of, but when I apply it to my work world, how much I deeply care about people.
Yeah.
And how sometimes that's hard because there's also systems and processes and goals and metrics. Like my world is comprised of both the feeling and the humanistic part of of a degree of a college experience, but also very much the facts, the figures, the data. So, but at the end of the day, I feel best when I'm engaging with people, when I'm helping people, using the data and the tools that I have. But to be a leader and to help others thrive is a success in and of itself that I'm very proud of. But also the leaders who've helped me get to where I am too. So very much the people aspect of my work is what is most motivating and how I would define success. If the people around me are satisfied, if they feel really good about what they're doing, if they can see their contributions, that's winning. Whether or not we meet enrollment goals, when people show up and they feel great, that is the best accomplishment you could ever have, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's, one of the things that I love about looking at titles or roles or job description is specifically the ones that break down like percentages of time. Like 10% of your time will be spent here, 25% of your time will be spent here. And I think where I'm sensing tension in the current American workforce, if I can be as egotistical to say that I've got a pulse on this, if I can talk about where I feel like there is tension, I think we don't leave time in a role to lead people as fully or wholly or helpfully or comprehensively as it truly requires. And I don't know how people fix that, but I think that there is a level of understanding that like if you are a leader of people and you are leading them well, it takes more time than we want it to on a job description.
Tweet. Yeah, there's again another quote that as I thought of as I was listening to you, it's something along the lines of when you invest in people, you will always win.
Yeah.
Maybe it's probably butchered that quote, but that's what I'm remembering from it. And people are the entire foundation of your work, unless you're living in a tech world and I mean you don't have people on your staff, but like people is the foundation of NDSU.
Yeah.
So, and you're absolutely right, Bethany. It's I don't want to say it's an afterthought to take care of people, but it's certainly not built into a position description like the tasks are,
Yeah.
or the desired outcomes, or anything other than taking care of people. And I mean, it's funny you bring this up because we do performance reviews every
Mhm.
year, and I feel like that's really the one time that's built into the fabric of our institution where you're supposed to really be mindful of how are
Yep.
people doing, how are they feeling. Wish we could figure out a way to like embed that within the fabric of how we operate day to day. And I don't want to make it seem like it's an afterthought because there are some really great people who do prioritize
Yep.
that in the day to day. But I think across the board, there's an opportunity there to make it more of a priority to take care and invest in our people.
Well, and I
Um,
think like on one hand, I think I could make I'm just into making assertions today. But I think that it would be safe to say that the leaders who are the best at caring for their people are also the leaders who take work home with them. Because 9 to 5 moves differently based on how often people are in your office, on your phone, in your Teams chat. Um, and so I think that's the first assertion I would make. The second one I would make, the second one that's just two ones, but they're whatever, is what about the people who have great ability to lead a function but actually don't want to lead people? And I think that is a rising concern that I see in our younger professional generations, is that so many of them are saying, I don't want to lead people. And I think it is because there are so many people who have done a bad job of leading people that like they don't want, they're concerned that will be them. And so I think about when we think about leadership, like A, if you're leading people, how are we making sure you have the time to do that? And B, how do you get to lead and grow here personally without following a track that requires you to lead people? Because I think that's going to become a growing problem.
and to separate those seems problem like to say I only want to do, there has to be a human element. I feel like I can't envision a world where you separate those types of roles. You have the people focused people and then you have the I mean, it all just blends together. It has to.
Well, and I think like
Yeah.
I want to work on a team with people who have different skill sets than me. Um, and so I think like I would like to play in a world where we're reimagining the American workforce and what leadership looks like in that space. Because I do think I've worked with a number of people who are incredibly proficient at leading and growing and scaling a function, who could work with people who do that, but they don't want to supervise them. And so how do you add a function like that into a team? How do you acknowledge the man hours and the labor of leading people and not watching the people who are really good at that just burn out? Like those, I think those are realities we're going to have to get better at acknowledging as leaders.
That's where I think we don't, I'm going to collective we, the world probably, um, don't do enough to embed things like mentorship, professional development. Well, some may excel better than others, but again, I feel like in a lot of cases, those are an afterthought after
Hmm.
you get your tasks done. Okay, how do we
Yeah.
develop you as a leader? How do we develop you to, when that really should be the starting conversation, not, yeah.
That's its own profound thought. like does your company do this and is it an afterthought? And like I think we have to be able to have the conversations without pointing fingers. Like we're not going this way, we're going this way. And so can we just acknowledge or address like, is this the thing? Like, do you have a book club, but when the calendars are full that doesn't happen? Do you like, what are the things and how do we reprioritize those? I think that's a really profound question.
Maybe not even prioritize them, Bethany, but like, gotta be, again, I mentioned the word, it's gotta be part of the fabric.
Yeah.
So yes, prioritizing, but like not prioritizing. So it's a separate thing over here that we're
Right.
working on in alignment with all the. It's just like, how does it all blend? How does it
Like
all
it
work
just
together?
is. Like it just
Yep.
like it moves like this instead of
Mm-hmm.
like this,
Mm-hmm.
maybe.
Yeah, and in the admission world, you mentioned burnout earlier. I mean, staff turnover. I've done a couple presentations about staff turnover and job satisfaction, and recruiters, as an example, the average time that they stay employed in their job is what, 2 or 3 years, I think, from the most recent data I've seen. And you think about if you have rapid turnover like that in a team that's responsible for promoting and being ambassadors to your brand, and then you have to retrain those people, their replacements. I mean, the momentum slows a little bit because
Yeah,
you spend
absolutely.
all your time just training them to be up to the task, to do the thing. So if we develop them a little bit more and invested more in them as humans, I mean, that's been a goal, is like, how do we take care of them so that they don't want to leave in
Right.
2 or 3 years? And I realize that's easier said than done, because you have to be mindful of succession and advancement and all the things that sometimes you can't
Right.
promise. But when people feel valued, they're going to want to stay. And again,
Yeah.
back to tying it to mission. If they know the mission, they know the goals, they know what we're
Yeah.
striving for, yeah, make it that much harder for them to say no to you, no to leaving, I
And I
guess.
think because that's the goal, right? Like
Mhm.
how are we building a place that is the way we talk about it at its best? And that makes it like I love the fabric illustration because like you can't separate it, right? Like it's
Right.
not
Sustainable. It's also not help.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
This
yeah.
is deep.
Okay.
This is real. I mean, I
We're
should have known that. Wait, it's called real talk, but wow.
we're gonna have all the real conversations because I feel very strongly like one of the things I've expressed leadership is different than mentorship. So like I'm really enjoying like these conversations are different than the mentorship conversations. But by and large, the vast majority of people that I'm talking to, whether hired as a mentor or a coach or a friend, colleague, coworker, neighbor, whatever, um, so many people I know and am talking to care so much about their work, care so much about their identity and connection to their work, care about the mission of their work. And there seems to be a disconnect between them and leadership or them and the larger organization or institution. And I think like my desire in life is to figure out how to improve that reality because everybody I'm talking to cares. There's not a
Right.
lack of care. There is a lack of ability to feel like there's autonomy or agency or ability to feel like what I'm doing actually mirrors how we talk about what we do. And I think that has to be solved. And I will also say I was raised in a home where the women did not work professionally outside of the home, as did a lot of the people I'm talking to. Like we were told, be passionate, get educated, you can change the world, you can do anything. And now we're stuck in this space where we're trying to figure out how to manage our passion in a workplace that actually kind of wants you to clock in and clock out.
Right.
And like, so how are we building the workplace we want to see? Is I think like that is the driving factor of the leadership conversations is how are we actively participating in building a workplace we want to be and that others will want to be also.
Yeah. Also take those same questions and apply it to education in general. How are we providing an educational experience that's flexible, that's there when you need it, in the method you need it, in the mode you need it, whatever, where it fits into your bigger life? Like, it's your work is just a sliver of your entire life, your entire
Yep.
identity, it's just a sliver. So yeah, I had to immediately translate what you just said to my actual job, because I feel that too from a recruitment standpoint,
Yep.
is like, how do we meet people where they are, essentially,
Yeah.
but also help them stay too. So
Yeah.
mhm.
I think it's intriguing, and that's why we're gonna have all the conversations because I think we're smart enough to make it better. I didn't say fix it; I said make it better.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
So I think we talk about leadership a lot. We talk about leadership in a lot of spaces. This isn't just like a professional hat you put on. Like if you can lead in other spaces. So, what do you think the function of leadership is for?
The function of leadership. Well, leaders oftentimes have had similar or maybe directly compatible experiences to those they are leading. And so I see a direct alignment. What I'm getting at is I see a direct alignment between leadership and mentorship of leaders are there to inspire, to help clearly articulate the end goal, the why behind that goal, but also to be able to speak from experience a little to build up the folks who are on their teams working to achieve said goal or outcome. I'm trying to think of like a world without leaders, I guess is what I'm trying to envision.
Ooh.
And it feels like chaos, but I don't want to envision that world because I think of the people that I've leaned on and that have been leaders to me, supervisors, managers, directors, whatever. And I've taken pieces of each of those people and have found my way through it all. Not to say that I've cloned myself to be that person, but that's what you pick up on. You pick up on the things you're like, oh, I really like that, or oh, I really appreciated how they addressed that, or and that's important. That's where the network. We talk about networking a lot in the business world. The network, I think is a big reason why leadership is important because leaders help you find your network, but can also be part of your network.
Yeah.
That's my non-answer. I don't know if I'm answering your question.
No, it's a great answer. Can I think about like because you took me to a dark place of imagining a world without leaders that got dark real quickly. But you also immediately called out the people who you've found, and like I think because I had to imagine the darkness of a world without leaders, like these people become like wayfinding, right? Like these are the light that help you find your way in a world where there is darkness. And I feel like the other thing that you talked about was like, and then you've gathered, and like so you're gathering light, and like there's a real beautiful picture there that I think is not how I've ever like kind of conceptualized the concept of leadership, but like there are people who have enough light to give without diminishing theirs. It's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely beautiful. And yeah, kudos to all the people who've paved the way for people like me and you to be able to have conversations like this. I just don't, just people who haven't invested in other people before us. Well, I should flip that. Because of the people who've invested in others before us, I think that's where leadership is critical in our world, because I don't know how we're gonna continue to succeed and challenge ourselves and find the next best thing, the next breakthrough. It's kind of a non-negotiable, I guess.
Yeah, it is kind of a non-negotiable, and I do think I think even the conversation is kind of like, I would say when I was younger in my career and I was pursuing leadership opportunities, there was kind of a stigma about like, oh, she's go get her. And like, almost like that was looked at negatively. And I think about the way that Timothée Chalamet has been shameless about like, I am in pursuit of greatness. And there's been shade thrown. Like we're not allowed to say that we want to pursue something meaningful that matters or want to grow or become more of a leader. Like there is kind of this stigma or perception of self-promotion, or that I think I'm better than you in some way. And like, I think that also has to go away entirely. And I think that's where your first answer comes right back into the conversation of like, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for a mission that I believe in. And I think that is another place where mission should make the conversation easier.
Absolutely. Yeah. To me, leadership is not necessarily about self-gain. It's, what can I do in the moment I'm in now to make whatever situation I'm in better? So maybe in that regard, it is, you could argue it's self-gain, but that's not my end goal. It's always, I want to leave something better than I found it. I want to leave people better than I found them.
I think a little bit about some leaders that we know. where I think leadership looks more like self-sacrifice than self-gain.
Oh, sure.
Like the leaders who are leaving it all on the field. And that I think that leadership is hard. And that there is a level of self-sacrifice in some, like either your privacy or your time or your, the ability to make it through dinner without taking a phone call, and your family's ability to manage the fact that like that is a known reality in your life.
It's we maybe have texted about this trade-offs. You mentioned sacrifice, and I'm like, yeah, to me that's a trade-off. I mean, every day you have to probably make a decision, and you're sacrificing something based on the decision you made.
Yeah.
You could also argue that's a trade-off, and there's no one solution to every problem, but that too, I think, it could be limiting in a leader. It's as someone as a leader, if you think that you're here to find the one perfect magical crystal ball solution. No, trying to find the best trade-off in that moment. And sometimes that does mean you have to make sacrifices or say no or say, like it's just a big teeter-totter that we're all on, and it's, moving back and forth depending on the decisions we make every day.
I think it's so funny. I'm so glad you used a teeter-totter because I immediately pictured a teeter-totter that's like balanced.
Sure.
And like not once, not never is that why someone got on a teeter-totter, because like that's not how that's the whole point of a teeter-totter is that it doesn't balance.
Correct. Yes.
And I think that's important because there are no solutions, only trade-offs, and I believe that, and that is a true thing.
Yep.
Related, because it's all about leadership. How do you stay anchored in your values when the pressure is high?
Well, Bethany, such deep questions on a Monday afternoon. Well, most of my values really tie back to how I show up for my family, how I develop myself as an individual, and just the long-term stability that I have in my life. So my values are really, you could relate them to my work and to the pressure of my work, but they're more so tied to my life outside of my job.
Yeah.
So when you ask me how I navigate the pressures of my work and how that aligns with my values, I first have to admit to myself that I cannot be everything to everyone. And the pressures that we face in enrollment are not only my pressures to solve or find trade-offs for. And in those moments, Bethany, I find myself leaning into other people to gather insight, advice, but also to own that we may not be able to solve this or address this pressure right now. Like one of my mentors, I don't know if I'm allowed to share names, so I'm not going to, but one of my mentors talks about...
If they're good things, you're supposed to, because the whole point is giving people their flowers.
So if they listen, they'll know who they are, but they talk a lot about the circle of concern versus the circle of control. And when you're feeling pressure, usually that pressure is felt because your circle of concern is very, very, very large. But you have to remind yourself that what are the things within that circle of concern that I, as Seinquis, can actually control and maybe make movement on. And so, again, that doesn't really relate to my values, but that's how I navigate the pressures, is like what can I actually do to accomplish this? Or does this require expertise, guidance, support, teamwork from other people? And that has taken a long time for me to come to realize that I can't do this alone, and you have to lean on others. And the pressure is real, and the pressure will probably never go away, but it feels like less pressure when you can lean on other people to give insights and maybe use their expertise to help you address that. Yeah.
Circle of concern versus circle of control is a fascinating way to like visualize where I think so much like what we're talking about is pressure, and like that is a metric that speaks to pressure so directly. And I appreciate that. Like that's a teeter-totter that you can work on balancing.
Absolutely.
Like if those circles are innately disproportionately sized, they're never going to balance.
Absolutely. Yep. And will they ever I don't know. That's a constant
Yeah.
push and pull. But that truly, given some of the enrollment challenges that we've had here over the last decade or longer, it's really easy to get blinded, distracted by the things you cannot control.
Yeah. Yep.
And to use those as excuses, or to use those as defense mechanisms, when really there's a lot we can control. We just have to reframe how we approach that. And the pressure will always be there. That's also something I've had to learn too, is there will always be pressure. Like, you're always going to feel challenged. You're going to feel, well, I will, maybe not everybody, but there's always stress, especially when you're in a leadership role and you have to make strategic decisions. Like, there'll never be a day when pressure will just be eliminated. So you got to figure out how to navigate it.
And I think, like, there's a level of honesty there that I just think is important to share, right? Like, I have a vivid memory of a mom telling me when Evelyn was like 8 days old, like, how's it going? And I was like, it's going so well. She sleeps. They're like, that's going to end. And there were these other moms who were like, that's so not helpful to tell her. And I'm like, if it's true, it's actually the most helpful thing to tell me. Because when this stops being true and I start to wonder, am I the worst mom ever? Is she like, well, whatever list of questions you're going to run through, like, the reality is important. The pressure is always going to be there. So the job isn't to get rid of the pressure. It's to manage how we manage the pressure.
Absolutely. And the uncertainty that comes with said pressure too. Like, we talk a lot about strategic planning and what does the future look like of our world, our lives, and you can't predict any of that. So you can do your best. So yeah, the management of it, and just, I don't know, coming to terms with, like, we're never going to have it all figured out, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So might as well just be along for the ride.
And so, like, and how do you make the ride as enjoyable as possible, right? Like, if the pressure's always going to be there, you have to manage how you manage pressure. If the uncertainty is already going to be there, then we have to manage how we handle situations where we feel uncertain. Like, the goal isn't to fix the reality. The goal is to improve ourselves.
Bingo.
I can vibe with that. I can vibe with that all day long. So as a leader, how do you recognize potential in someone before they see it in themselves?
One of the first things I think of is people who ask questions, whether it be in large group settings, small group settings, one-on-ones. You can tell the gears are turning and there's wonderment and curiosity for folks who ask questions. And there's a difference between asking questions and, like, pushing upon your beliefs on. It's taking an inquisitive approach, I guess, versus I don't even know an opposite way to say that. So I'm just going to go back to how I started, is people who ask questions in the right way because they're curious before they come all in and suggest a solution, quote unquote, are the folks who I think are probably primed and ready for more strategic level conversations, decisions, and leading others. Yeah.
I'm going to Ted Lasso this for a minute because Ted Lasso's whole thing, there's a lot of whole things, but one of the biggest is be curious, not judgmental. And when I started watching the show, I was like, judgmental, like I'm judging you. And I think that it's the right word that we're talking about here, because what it means is I've judged it enough to not be curious about it. I've made a final determining decision about what this thing is instead of wondering about what it could be. And I had to change my perception of the word judgment for that to, like, really click for me. Like, if I'm sharing information and you've taken it, you've weighed it, you've judged it, you've said, okay, that is what it is. And someone takes it and says, but what if it could? Or has it ever? Or could we try? Like, one teammate has judged it and determined it is what it is. The other one is curious about it. And, like, that is such a fascinating metric for determining capability and capacity. I like come back to capacity.
Mm-hmm. I also, to add to that though, judgment is a necessity, right? Especially in leadership. You have to make judgments. You have to make decisions based on, hopefully, the facts and figures in front of you and the information you have. But I think to get to those judgment making moments, a level of curiosity is necessity so that, I mean, I believe in looking at perspectives looking at things from as many perspectives as possible. And to me, that is an example of being curious before you make a judgment.
Right.
So I think both of them are important depending on the context. But I do think a starting point when you're looking to people you could maybe tap who could be ready for the next step in their career, it's those people with the curiosity who are willing to be curious before they judge.
Which I think, I love that you tied that back into like that ability to actually like make a decision and stick to it. I think sometimes the struggle with being in the leader's chair is like someone has to make a decision. Someone has to decide. Is that something like you always felt good at? No. Or is that something you got better at?
I'm a work in progress in the decision making. Because maybe this is a fault of mine, because I need to know a variety of different perspectives, insights. I'm certainly a collaborator in that regard of like, what if we did this? Can you tell me what I'm not thinking of? What are my blind spots? And so sometimes, Bethany, it's really hard for me to make a decision because I don't feel like I have all of the inputs that I need to make a sound decision, or it takes me too long and then I feel like I'm not moving quick enough for those who are relying on me. But also I think making too quick of decisions can backfire.
Yeah.
And so certainly I'm willing to make a decision on the fly and stand by it, because if it's urgent, you need someone who can not be afraid to decide. Mm-hmm. But do I feel good in those moments? Absolutely not, because I'm someone who needs to process and really weigh the pros, the cons, the ifs, the thens, the buts. But the reality is there's just never enough time to do all of that in the world that I work in. So yeah, I continue to be a work in progress in that area. But I will say, I think I'm more confident now than I was even a year or two ago. But yeah, that stuff evolves over time for sure.
And I guess my question is, when you think about getting better at it over time, like better than I was 2 years ago, is it the repetition that has improved that, or what do you think has actually led to you feeling comfortable to say, I feel better at it than I was 2 years ago?
It could be the repetition a little, or because I've taken what I didn't know then that I know now, and now I'm like, okay, don't need to fester and figuring out that perspective or from that point of view.
Yep.
So I think the repetition, but also building upon the knowledge that I've gained over the years and the people that I've leaned on to give me that insight. So I'm not starting from ground zero every single time. I think that's really important. Absorbing and maintaining knowledge is really, really important too, to make good judgments and good decisions.
Well, and I think that is like believing that you can get better is an important, like for me, if I have to be the leader I was 10 years ago today, like that I don't want to be there. But knowing that like you can improve,
right,
is the encouragement that is often, I think, like I talked to somebody a couple weeks ago who said, they give themselves 18 months in a new role to feel like, okay, I know what this looks like now. And I think that's important for people to hear too, right? Like, it's not like you step into this role to become a leader and you're like, yes, I've done it. I'm here now.
I'm leading.
Like, no, it's leading you. Like for at least the first however long, like you are just victim to that own reality, right? Like, but you do get better. And I think that is an important thing to remember.
And I'm going to use a climb the mountain reference because we're climbing the mountain right now in DSU and football. Like I don't believe there's ever the top of the mountain you reach when it comes to leadership. Like there's always something to glean, something to learn, someone to learn from. It's certainly, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Maybe it's a perpetual marathon is the way I would describe leadership, is that there's always opportunities to build upon and to grow and to shift and change your leadership style, your approach, depending on the environment you're in. And so even when I think about the mentors in my life, Bethany, who have been in the game for a very, very long time, I think I would like to think they're learning from me just as much as I'm learning
Yeah.
from them. Like this reciprocal relationship of mentorship and leadership, I think is so, so important because there's no finish line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that is a huge perspective or like framework shift that I think is so incredibly important to understand in life and as a leader. Like the goal isn't to get to the top of the mountain. The goal is like it literally is about the friends you made along the way.
It really
Like it
is.
really is about the process. And I have a dear friend, Nancy Wolf, who you probably know. She's a trustee at the foundation, who is an avid hiker. And her perpetual thing on Instagram is like always this like the hike is the point. The journey is the destination. Like who we become in this process is the point. And I'll be honest with you, the things we tell ourselves, especially the things we tell ourselves the most, are so important to the way we think about the world. And like genuinely, following Nancy on Instagram has helped confirm to me the truth of that reality because she's constantly saying it. She lives her life that way. And it has been really easy to be like, yes, I respect her. I think of her as a mentor. And this is her like framework about her leadership and her life. And I think it is so true. And it
Mm,
changes how you spend every day between point A and point B,
absolutely.
because point B doesn't really exist, actually.
Bingo. Bingo. I was just, oh, there's something you just said that I wanted to respond to, but I'm just going to say ditto to all of that because, oh, I know what I was going to say. You
Yeah.
brought up my strengths in my bio,
Hmm.
and you mentioned that I'm an achiever. And I used to operate, Bethany, in that way of like, oh, if I just achieve this thing, it's going to be great. And I can say I was successful and I've conquered the world. And I still very much am an achiever, but I think I approach it differently. It's not like one achievement or 5 achievements. It's just striving to be the best I can be, no matter what part of the hike I'm on or what leg of the sprint I'm in. So certainly I've had a mindset shift too over time as I've taken on different leadership roles.
I
And those
think
quotes you
that,
heard as a kid, like
yep.
it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's about the journey, not the destination. Like those things didn't click for me even 10, 15 years ago. They sound so cliche. And now I'm like, okay, it's so true. It is so true. And sometimes you don't realize that until you're living it.
Well, and
So
I think that is like the call to action. Like what I think I'm asking people to do is to tell everyone on your team that the cliches are real. Because I think like they were all like some ridiculous aspiration leadership poster in some office somewhere, and it felt like that can't possibly be the secret to success. Like, have you seen
right.
this poster? Be real.
Right.
Uh, but like I think like the reasons they became cliches are because they were repeated, and they were probably repeated because they resonated. And so how do we demystify or de-cliche things that we actually need to say seriously to each other?
Yeah. I don't know if I have the answer to that other than sometimes it might just take life experience to have those aha moments. Like,
Yeah,
oh, that's what that poster in my second grade teacher's office, like
they knew. They
yeah, it's
knew.
like yeah, you don't know until you live it. That's what they tell you to like, things as an 18-year-old that you wish you would have known, you know? Yeah.
It matters. It matters. Okay, I got one more question, and then I
Okay.
am aware of the time and need to let you go be important and lead things.
Oh,
This is a great one to close with.
gosh.
What kind of leaders does the world need now? And I mean now, and like now, I mean the way that I wrote it was, what kind of leaders does the next decade demand from us? That's a little bit pretentious. Um, but like when we think about building a leader for the modern world, what kind of leaders do we need?
We need compassionate leaders, number one, because the human element is so, so critical. And at the same time, we need leaders to embrace the unknown and not be fearful of the unknown. I guess To lead and not know where you're leading to is what I'm.
Ooh.
To be courageous in that respect. To be in the moment, number one, but also to lead through uncertain times, whether that's in 5 years or 150 years. You need courage to do that. So courageous, compassionate leadership is what I think the world needs. And I probably would say the same thing if we were in the 1900s still. I laugh because the youth say that now.
They do say that.
But also, Bethany, just more practically speaking, just the evolution of technology and just where we're headed with emerging technologies does make me wonder what the world will even look like a year from now. And so, again, I go back to being courageous leaders, people who are willing to adapt to the times while staying true to who they are, but being adaptable is what the world needs. To go on and on about that because I think out loud, but that's where my heart's tugging today.
I think it's so important, and I think that there probably were eras where comfort or certainty was more what was preached. This is what the future is going to look like. And I think that's even true of my collegiate search and experience. You should do something like this so you can do something like this because the world is going to look like this.
X plus Y equals Z. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it didn't actually, that equation didn't balance. And I am so grateful for the education I received. I feel so prepared for so many things, degrees, people, the light along the way. But what you're talking about is an ideology of uncertainty. If this is the constant, if this is the norm, if this is the expectation, what do you as a leader need to be for that reality? And I really appreciate that.
Thank you. I'm sure I might have a different answer tomorrow when we talk, but that's how I'm feeling in the moment.
Well, when I text you the minute this is done, we can talk about it then. But I really, really, really want to thank you for taking an hour out of your very busy life to have this conversation. It's really important, and I really appreciate your thoughts and feedback and input. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Bethany. I admire you, and I'm proud of you. I'm glad to be part of this. This did not feel like an hour. So when you said that, I was like, oh, we're already at time. I feel like I'm just getting into it.
Yeah, I could have kept going, but I'm trying to be respectful. So look at me go.
No, thank you. I've watched a couple of your other interviews, and they've been highly enlightening. I hope that I can, back to time, carve the time to listen to all of them. But this is stuff we need to be talking about more. And I'm glad that you're creating a platform for it. So,
well, you mean the world to me. Thanks for all the things you do. And, go save the world.
Go Bison.
Go Bison. Bison Keys.
Right. Yep, bye.